My name is Mary Wharton. I interviewed Joley BigEagle. Where are you from? Like originally?
I'm from White Bear First Nation.
Okay, you grew up there too?
No, I grew up in Regina and Saskatoon.
Okay, so you've been back and forth kind of?
Yeah.
Oh, you live in Regina now?
Yeah, I live in Regina now.
Okay. Your cultural background?
Well, I identify mostly with my Nakota side, but we do have some Cree in our background, and a bit of mixture of, I guess, I don't know if it's Scottish, but I think it's Scottish from our great-great-great-grandpa.
Wow, you got lots in there, huh? Yeah. And if you could elaborate a little bit on your profession. I looked you up before you came. I was online, I was looking at your website, I was reading about you and things like that.
Oh, okay.
But if you want to elaborate, then you tell me.
All right. Well, I have 2 degrees, a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics from Saskatchewan Indian Federated College before it was First Nations University. So I got that in 1995. And then I got my Bachelor of Science in Engineering and Civil Engineering at the University of Calgary in 2004 with a minor in Environmental Engineering. And so I'm still an engineer in training. You have to do 4 years of practicum after you graduate in order to be eligible for your professional engineering designation. So I'm actually back at work engineering at Sask Energy.
Is that part of the 4 years?
Yeah.
What year are you on right
now? I'm on my last year, so I can do my final report. I've already done the final exam, or the exam that you need to take in order to become eligible. And so I'm going to apply this year for my PN designation, professional engineering designation.
Okay.
And yeah, but I'm an artist. I'm a writer. I wouldn't call myself an author because I haven't published anything yet, but I write children's stories.
Oh, okay.
And I'm an artist. I sew star blankets, and I'm now painting star blankets.
Do you make any clothing? Or?
Yeah, I do. I've made a few clothing, graduation outfits, and some traditional skirts, pretty much anything. And yeah, we opened the boutique a year ago on Friday, so April 4th of last year.
Oh,
yeah, so
wow.
we've become...
Congrats.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Okay, I'll get into a little bit more complex questions here. Can you tell me a bit about where you grew up and a bit about your childhood? What it was like?
Okay, well, we grew up in the inner cities of Saskatoon and Regina. So what's now, I guess, north central Regina, and I'm not sure what they call in Saskatoon, but basically what's deemed the inner city of Saskatoon. So grew up with a family. I have 6 siblings on my mother's side, and 2 on my biological dad's side, additional 2 on my biological dad's side, and an additional 10 on my stepdad's side.
Holy cow.
Yeah, so our extended family was pretty big. We had lots of, grew up with a lot of cousins as well. My mom had 28 brothers and sisters. All, that's just the biological, no, not considering her adopted.
How do you keep track?
It's hard. We've done a few family trees.
Yeah?
Yeah, and it's always changing, of course, through the years. But yeah, sometimes, yeah, I do forget my first cousin's names.
Are you pretty close with your family?
Yeah, I am pretty close with my family. Yeah. With my siblings, it's through the years, of course, there's, the aunties and uncles, some of them have passed away. So it's a little bit smaller, and we don't have my grandpa and grandma, on my mom's side. So Yeah, it's a lot, but I have a lot of nieces and nephews, and my sister has grandbabies, so they're my grandchildren. I have 5 children of my own as well, but yeah, so we grew up, and you know, I, I I wouldn't say that we grew up poor. I'd say that we grew up financially strained. I'm not sure how. I don't. I'm. It's really. Kind of. It's not black and white. Just to say we grew up poor. Because I think when I look back, I didn't see that we grew up poor. You know. It always seemed like my mom magically put food on our table, and I remember we made our own candy. I thought that was great.
That's cool. I've never heard that before.
Well, yeah, oatmeal and corn syrup, and then you fry it up, and it's like almost like peanut brittle.
Really?
Yeah, and so I just thought this is just what everybody does, and I used to love eating, crackers and jam, and that was like our snack.
Yeah.
And so, and yeah, we grew up eating liver. We just thought that that's what you had to eat.
I don't know if I'd like that too much. But...
Yeah, so, and the rhubarb and the crabapple trees, we thought my mom, we'd go and get crab apples. There's lots of crab apples in the city. And so we go and, find crab apples.
Do you have your own garden too?
Nope.
No, just apples? Okay.
No, but there's lots of rhubarb growing back alleys, and crab apples hanging over fences that were in the back alleys. So, it was a treat to have crab apple, I don't know what you'd call it, crab apple soup, or like kind of like an applesauce, but it wasn't a texture of applesauce.
Okay.
It was, you still ate it, the apples.
Was your mom quite a cook?
Yeah, so we were, grew up on Bannock, and, we're pretty happy. Yeah.
That's good. What are some of the defining moments in your life?
I think, definitely if I could look back and see, a big change in our life was when both of my parents, well, my mom stopped drinking because, alcohol played, factor in our early life. So, when I think I was 12, and she stopped drinking, and we definitely noticed a difference. And it was also a time that she left my father, and so, it was as though she was raising us as a single parent. And so when she left our father, it was definitely, I think it just changed our life, because then she definitely was a single parent. And I thought we were better off because of it, but that doesn't mean that I have any heart, I hold anything against my father. I love my father, and shortly, I think within a year he also quit drinking. So they've been sober for, I don't know, over 30 years now. And I think helped each other to become sober. And, them being, not together helped our family to grow together. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. No, I understand. And then she would have met your stepdad?
Well, no, that was I grew up with my stepdad, so
okay.
I consider myself lucky. I have 2 dads. Yeah, my biological father and my stepdad that I call my dad. I probably, it's probably around the same time, because I grew up in the city, same time as my parents, split and stopped and became sober. Because I think I must have been, 12, 13, and there was a powwow dance troupe in Regina, and I think it was a summer, the summer camps that you go to. So I went to the summer camp, and she was teaching. Her name is Lily Daniel. She still teaches POW. It's just like 30 years ago, and she's still teaching POW. And so I did the camp with her, and one of the things that we did was we learned how to dance powwow. And I hadn't really, don't remember attending powwows before I was 12. I know I did, but I don't really remember participating. I think I observed, but I don't remember, dancing. And so that summer, she, said, get some moccasins, do you want to come and be part of a dance troupe? And, all you need are moccasins. And I was like, we couldn't afford moccasins, so my mom didn't know how to make moccasins. So, when the time came to be picked up to be part of this powwow dance troupe, I couldn't go because I didn't have any moccasins. That sounds really sad, but but I guess it made me think, like, what are moccasins? Why are they so important? And and why can't we afford them? And aren't we supposed to? We're Indians. Aren't we supposed to be able to have moccasins? Like, So I think if I could pinpoint a moment, I think there might be moments earlier than that, but I think that would be a major moment when I was like, made me question, like, where do you get from? And why are they important?
What inspired you to open Kequahtooway Boutique?
Well, I've been sewing for, I'd probably say like over 20 years. And it started, with my own children, just designing for them. And then, whether it was like Halloween outfits, whether it was a POW outfit, whether it was a skirt, or a ribbon shirt, or whatever it was, and then that just kind of gradually just transferred to, my friends and family saying, hey, you did that for your kids. What about, making this for me? And, for the most part, I don't remember charging anybody. It was always like, here's a gift, or buy the material and I'll make it, And then, the years went by, and then I met my husband, and he's an entrepreneur, and he had his own business, an IT business called Morningstar Technologies. Okay. And, so when we got together, we go on road trips, we'd always be like, dreaming and like, what business could we start together? What could we, do together? We'd be always like dreaming up all of these business ideas. And then I think maybe 2 years of talking about all this on all these road trips, I was like, what? I should start writing this stuff down. And one of them was the baby boutique, that we would open up a baby boutique just on First Nations designed, moccasins, star blankets, clothing, baby star blanket. Well, I already said that, baby star blankets, baby hair clips, baby, jewelry, everything baby. And the boutique evolved from that idea. Tatanka Boutique evolved from that idea. Yeah.
What is your goal for Tatanka Boutique?
Well, our goal is to, the one of the biggest goals is to contribute to the artistic community by purchasing their product. Right? When you look at it like that, art is a commodity, and so we consider we're purchasing art from suppliers. But they're artists. So we're contributing to the art community, and we hope to contribute to the viability of the art community, because you always, there's always the kind of the stereotypical ideal that an artist is a starving artist. And so we want to contribute to kind of the economic well-being of the artist, and specifically First Nations and Métis artists, because there are a lot, and as well as, you know, showcasing the number of art that is out there. And there is traditional art and there is contemporary, and Tatanka, you know, boutique is kind of that, I guess that I don't know what the word is, the venue. It's the gateway, you know, to bigger possibilities, to not just showcasing them in Regina and Saskatchewan, but, you know, expanding that market to across Canada and then, you know, internationally as well.
Okay, what's your plans to do that?
Well, we're starting small, so this year definitely, you know, was a growing year, and one of the biggest obstacles that we found is that there is no market research on, like when you do a business plan, one of the first things they ask you to do is provide your market research. Well, you know, there is no market research on First Nations art, jewelry, or clothing.
What do you mean by market research? Sorry,
Well,
I don't know very much.
Well, like cameras.
Okay.
You know, like you can, there's this thing called the, I forget now what it's called. It's an acronym. But there's this code that's kind of the industry standard code for each business, right? So, so let's see, for like a Dollarama, you know, they're under a certain code called, I don't know, gifts and novelties, right? And then there is, you know, the big box stores at Walmart, you know, they could be under gifts and novelties as well. Well, when you register as a business, you need to identify your code to the government, the federal and the provincial government, so that they know how to classify you. So we had to classify ourselves because we didn't fit under any one code. We didn't fit under just art because we have clothing. We didn't fit just under clothing because we have art. We didn't fit just under jewelry because we have, you know, art and clothing, right? So the closest that we came to when we looked at kind of our competitors across Canada was this gifts and novelties and souvenirs. But the market data is kind of skewed because then that puts us in the same bracket as the Dollaramas or as the Walmarts, and the boutique is nowhere like a Dollarama or a Walmart. So when we look at our statistics, we basically are comparing ourselves to those two entities, and that's just not right.
No, there's hardly a comparison.
Yeah, there isn't any comparison. So, you know, but what do you do when you're doing your business plan? Because that's what, you know, the banks want to see. You know, that's what the lending institutions want to see. They want to see the market research.
Okay, so that's, you know, what's a big holdback right now?
That you know, so, you know, we did our best to, you know, to gather data that we could under art, under jewelry, under clothing, under baby products, you know, and tried to gather it so that we could fit the boutique in those categories, as well as the gifts, novelties, and souvenirs, you know, and make it, you know, make our business plan viable. And surviving the first year, you know, has been, I think, a great success because, you know, we're testing the market because we don't know. Like there's, you know, when you go to Dollarama or you go to Walmart and you go and you buy a hat, you know, you kind of know what that hat is going to be priced at. But when you come to the boutique and you get a piece of beadwork, you know, or some earrings, and you're like, what do we price those at? What's the market value of those? You know, what's somebody else paying for those in another boutique or another store? Well, you can't find these anywhere else. So then we have to establish the market price, and we have to determine if people will actually pay that price. So we're establishing the market. And so, you know, we're creating our own data, and we're creating our own research, and we're, you know, sometimes we price too high, sometimes we price too low. So you're like, oh, all those things that we priced at this price, they went out the door within a day. And we're like, oh, we priced those too low. And
Well,
then,
it's a learning process.
yeah, yeah. And so, it's been really definitely a learning experience because there is no, there are very few boutiques or stores, that sell exclusively First Nations and Métis items made locally or handmade.
Do you hope to branch out and make more Tatanka boutiques, or what's your idea?
We kind of have our 3 to 5 year plan, and people have approached us a few times already saying, oh, we should have, a kiosk, here at this mall, or you should have a kiosk, at Manitou Springs, because they need something over there, and and it's like, well, yeah, that's a really great idea, but it costs money.
Yeah.
And so when we opened the boutique, we thought that we could do it within a month. I really thought I could do it in a month, and I was so, I really misjudged that. Yeah, it took a good 3 months of, constant day-to-day checklist, checking off my list of what I needed to do in order to get everything ready, because we really pushed ourselves to open last April. Yeah, and even on the day of opening, we were still pricing items. So I was like running around the store saying, hi, glad to see you, and then taking a price tag on something.
Talk about crunch time.
Yeah. So, to answer your question, we would like to have some spin-offs to the boutique, but we know that it would require a big investment. So,
Okay.
yeah. So
Fingers crossed,
it's
right?
it would be a wish right now.
What are some of the challenges you faced while opening Tatanka Boutique?
Well, I think the first challenge that we overcame was that initially we were denied funding. The main reason was that it was deemed a risky business, and that was due to our lack of market data, and so we asked them to reconsider. It was a joint application that we submitted to the Women's Entrepreneurs of Saskatchewan and Saskatchewan Indian Equity Foundation, and so one depended on the other being accepted. And so when they both came back denied, I was like, okay, I guess that's it. That's the end of our dream. We'll just have to come back when we have our own money. But a good friend of mine said, no, just try hard for the next 2 weeks. And if, you can't get them to change your mind, then you've given it all. And I'm like, okay. So I made the phone call and set up meetings to ask them to reconsider, and they did. Yeah, and once one said yes, then they said, well, you have to convince the other one, and so that took about 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah, and it had both ways of dealing with both those organizations were different. So what I did for one didn't necessarily work for the other. So yeah, I did everything that I possibly could to ensure that I gave them everything that I could in terms of paperwork or ideas or recommendations, so that they would reconsider. Yeah, and so then they did.
It works.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to young Aboriginal entrepreneurs?
Well, I think, like being where I'm at right now, and just we're still a baby, 1 year old. I see some boutiques out there that are like, there's the BC native kind of the art community is older, and so looking at examples like that and seeing like they're in business for 30 years and they have like 8 to 10 stores for this one boutique, and I'd like to be there. you know, the world is a changing place. And now, you know, 30 years ago we didn't have to worry or deal with the internet, and now, you know, we do. And so how do you, like, if there's just so many different things to look at. But regardless of that, my advice would be that, you know, if you really want something, it's going to take a lot of effort, determination, will, and you're going to need support from your family, your friends, your peers, colleagues, and, you know, you need to put in some of your own money. That's a big thing. You know, you need your own equity. And if you get that from yourself, money that you saved, or if your friends or family contribute to it, then that's good. And that, you know, there are so many resources out there. Like you know, we went to so many different workshops, and we talked to so many different people, you know, with various levels of education, just saying, you know, go for coffee, or do you want to go for lunch, and just picking their brain, you know, and it was free.
Can't go wrong with that. Right?
So, you know, finding those free resources just in your network, or somebody who knows somebody, you know, and ultimately that's what helped me to get those loans approved, is that, you know, I had to call some of my previous mentors in the engineering world, and I called them up and I said, you know what, I'm not in engineering, I'm opening up a boutique, and would you write me a letter of support? You know, and one was in Calgary and one was in Edmonton, you know, and they're busy with their own lives and, you know, engineering. And I said, okay, and you have to do the letter within 3 days. You know, and they did, you know, and I hadn't talked to them, one of them for years. Well, actually both of them for years, you know, but they just supported me and believed in me so much that they wanted to support me in my new endeavor. You know, so they were willing to just, you know, to take the time to write a letter of support, you know. So I definitely appreciated all of my letters of support and people from the community that supported me, and reaching out to them and never knowing who has, you know, the kind of the wealth of knowledge that you might need, you know, to help you build your business. So, you know, like my friend, you know, she said, you know, give it 2 more weeks. In my mind, I was like, 2 more weeks, really? You think that I could make a change in 2 weeks? You know, they turned me down. You know, and I'm like, I don't have an engineering background. You know, I would thought that would have stood for, you know, that my resume stood for itself, that I could make a risky business, you know, a sound investment, look like a sound investment, without providing market data research. But no, you have to do your homework. You know, you have to do that business plan the way they want it, and you know, and just accessing all those resources. Yeah. So, you know, that I really rely on my network of friends and family, and reaching out to them and asking them for help, because you know, without that network, you know, I don't think we would have gotten to this point of celebrating 1 year at the boutique, or even having opened up the boutique. Yeah, and so, you know, it's a dream and it's a passion of mine.
What do you think is the perception of First Nations art? I know that's really random what I just asked, but
well, you know, it is challenging to it has been challenging, because there is still a perception out there that there, you know, that it's not tangible. There's still, you know, a lot of misunderstanding about what is it, you know, even defining what's Indigenous traditional art and what's Indigenous contemporary art, and placing a price tag on those items. You know, so in order to place a value on them, there needs to be a demand for them, right? In order for there to be a demand for them, you need to have some exposure to the marketplace, right? And so, you need to, a key part of the boutique is, each piece has a story, and it is all handmade. So, we really focus on the handmade, quality, unique, authentic piece, but we are also, well, I also realize we're competing with the Walmarts. I never really thought we were competing with the Walmarts when I did my business plan, until we opened it, and I'm bombarded with advertisements from Walmart and Costco and Michaels, all the Old Navy, just here in Regina. Never mind the Etsy's, the eBays, the United States retailers like JCPenney's, and the fashion designers that are appropriating kind of a Native American themed art and in their fashion. So, even though we're only Regina and we're really local and we support local artists, basically what I found is our competition is so much more than I thought, and it includes all of those retailers, because if I go to Walmart and I see a shirt and it has a little bit of maybe a Southwest design, some indigenous design, and I think, oh my God, that means that either we have to come up with something more original, or just let it go, and they can continue selling those T-shirts and making money from technically native art, right?
But not really.
But not really. No, they're not contributing to the native artist. They're contributing to their bottom line. Because they're manufacturing their clothing in cheap labor countries.
For their own benefit.
Yeah, so but it's challenging the consumers to think, to shop local, to support local, that they're supporting the local economy. And when I think about that, then I think, then we're in a similar business situation as the mom and pop grocery stores, down the corner. Mm-hmm. And you know what? You don't see a lot of those. So it's a really challenging marketplace for a local business. And last week there was a big box retailer open, Marshall's, in Regina. I don't know if you heard about it.
No.
It's kind of like Winners.
Okay.
And we went to go check it out. We don't do a lot of shopping.
No.
No. But we went to go check it out, and it's just another competition that we see for the boutique. And and there's all those big box stores are always going to bring in the cheaper T-shirts with the Native American design. Or I've actually seen Buffalo, the Buffalo, logo. It just says Buffalo and then has a buffalo design, and I'm like, well, that's what we are, right? Tonka is Buffalo. We should be designing those shirts, and we should be selling those shirts, and we hope to do that. We're just trying to figure out how to do that, because I would like to do it like a made in Canada shirt, mm-hmm. right? But that's so expensive, so we're trying to be competitive and to figure out, how to be, what's our market share, when we're in this big kind of hodgepodge of big box retailers. Because I really didn't think we were competing with them, but we're technically competing with every big box, because we're competing for money. We're competing for consumers. Yeah. So I think that's more than what you want.
How do you plan to change the perception of First Nations art?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that providing like a range, You know, like we initially kind of my one-liner is that we, you know, Tatanka Boutique provides First Nations and Métis design art, jewelry, clothing, and moccasins. Well, we also have star blankets. We also have, you know, specialty beadwork. You know, we have, you know, moose, smoked tanned hide moccasins. You know, we have porcupine quill earrings. You know, we have drums. We have CDs. We have books. You know, it just doesn't say it just in that one snapshot of that first line there. So, you know, we want to showcase the different kinds of art, different kinds of jewelry, different kinds of clothing, you know, that anything that a First Nations or Métis artist comes up with, you know, is basically First Nations art or Métis art. It's whatever they want to come up with, you know, and you know, so it can be anything, right? And we just don't have to kind of put everybody in a box and say, you're First Nations and Métis designer, so that means you make moccasins, you know, or you make dream catchers, you know, or you only do beadwork, and that's it, you know, and it's not, you know, there's like, you know, there's people that do pottery, you know, and there's people that work with parfleche, you know, which is kind of the rawhide, you know, they make purses out of it or earrings, you know. There's people that carve out of antler, you know, whether it's little, you know, antler earrings or they make these big carvings, right? You know, there's the moose tuft hair pieces, you know, there's peyote stitch for beadwork, and then there's the plain stitch. You know, there's just all this different kinds of beadwork and stitching. And, you know, it's so diverse, you know, that I've just, I know every piece in the boutique. And, you know, I've become more aware of the thousands and different variations to bead, you know, and the types of, like, you know, we've had special orders, and so somebody comes in and, you know, they'll order a red piece of beadwork, and I'm like, yeah, we could do that, you know, no problem. And then I go to my designers and say, I need to get this red, you know, beadwork, and they're like, well, what kind of red? And I'm like, I don't know, just red. And it's like, well, there's luminescent, you know, there's dark red, there's blood red, there's, you know, poppy red, there's shiny red, there's 2-cut, there's 3-cut, there's Courtney beads, you know, you put them all side by side, you know, and it's like, okay, well, just do, you know, you 3, here, there's 3 of them, you know, you just do what you want to do, make it in red, and bring it back, and all 3 are different. Yeah. Even though I've given them all the same design requirements, when they came back, they're all different. And I'm like, oh my God, I need to be more specific in the red. You know, so, you know, it's bringing that to the consumer and showing that art is for everybody. You know, one of the obstacles that we've had is that people come in and they're like, this is Tatanka Boutique, it's First Nations and Métis artists. That means, is it just for First Nations and Métis consumers? And we're like, no, art is for everybody, and we're here to share art, and we're here to sell art, because people would come in and like, is this for sale? Like, we're not a museum. Everything is for sale. You know, or there's one piece that we have that's actually a wedding present, and we thought it was a good fit for the boutique, and so we put our wedding present in the art gallery. And yeah, aside from that, everything else is, you know, for sale. We're a boutique. We're here to sell things. We're not a museum.